Hello Internet, and welcome back to my series of film reviews. Last time we covered Dr. No, and now I'm here to talk about the first entry in a film series spanning 20 years, X-Men. Released on July 14th, 2000, and directed by Bryan Singer, X-Men led to the start of the ever-expanding superhero genre of film, way before Spider-Man and way before the MCU. Before that, we got 1998's Blade starring Wesley Snipes as the vampire hunter Blade. I may review Blade, Blade 2, and Blade Trinity before we get the new Blade movie with Mahershala Ali, but we will have to wait and see. I will be reviewing every X-Men movie leading up to the release of Deadpool and Wolverine this July, which is technically part of the MCU, yet it's a sequel to Deadpool 2. Both Deadpool and Deadpool 2 were part of the X-Men film series, and I will be reviewing both of them as part of this series. On my old channel, I did reviews of Deadpool, X-Men Apocalypse, Logan, and Deadpool 2. But I will be covering those movies again in this style I'm doing right now. But yes, I will be reviewing every X-Men movie ever, from this one all the way up to the New Mutants. Not only are we getting Deadpool and Wolverine, but we're also getting X-Men 97, a follow-up to the iconic X-Men animated series which is coming to Disney Plus on March 20th. This movie stars Hugh Jackman as Logan, or Wolverine, Captain Picard himself Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, or Professor X. Patrick Stewart would later reprise the role in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Gandalf himself Ian McKellen as Eric Lencher, or Magneto. Halle Berry as Aurora Monroe, or Storm. The Green Hill Sheriff Tom Wachowski, or Donut Lord as Sonic the Hedgehog calls him, as Scott Summers, or Cyclops. I know it's James Marsden, but he'll always be Donut Lord to me. There's Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, who would later become the Phoenix. Famke Janssen also played Xenia Onatopp in GoldenEye. And there's also Rebecca Romijn as Raven Darkholme, or Mystique. Anna Paquin as Rogue. Ray Park as Toad. Ray Park also played Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace. And we have Tyler Mane as Victor Creed, or Sabretooth, who would later be portrayed by Liev Schreiber in X-Men Origins Wolverine. In later films, like X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix, a good chunk of the X-Men would later be played by other actors and actresses. For example, James McAvoy as Charles Xavier, Michael Fassbender as Magneto, Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, Sophie Turner as Jean Grey, Alexandra Shipp as Storm, Ty Sheridan as Cyclops. There's also an ever-expanding roster of X-Men like Beast, played by Kelsey Grammer in X-Men The Last Stand, X-Men Days of Future Past, and The Marvels, and Nicholas Hoult in X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, Deadpool 2, and Dark Phoenix. Daniel Cudmore as Colossus, who would later be portrayed by Stefan Kapusek in the Deadpool movies. We also have Kitty Pryde, played by Elliot Page, way before he came out as trans. And no, I am not calling him Ellen. When it comes time for me to review X-Men The Last Stand, I'm calling Kitty Pryde a he out of respect for Elliot Page. There's also Evan Peters as Quicksilver, but in these movies, his name is Peter Maximoff instead of Pietro. He is called Pietro when he's portrayed by Aaron Taylor Johnson in Avengers Age of Ultron. Evan Peters would then portray Ralph Boner in WandaVision. These movies were released under 20th Century Fox. However, The New Mutants is the only Marvel film to be released under the 20th Century Studios banner. But I will dive into this more once it comes time for me to review The New Mutants. This review, as well as all other reviews, will contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen the X-Men movies yet, please watch them before watching this video, bub. Now, on to the review. One neat gimmick for the 20th Century Fox logo for these movies is how the X in Fox is highlighted, before we get the opening narration from Patrick Stewart. And this was before 2002's Spider-Man gave us the iconic Marvel logo at the beginning of every non-MCU Marvel movie. I think I remember the F in Fox being highlighted for one of the Fantastic Four movies. I think it was 2015's Fantastic Four, but I don't remember, since the 2015 Fantastic Four is one of the absolute worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life, next to Madam Web. There! I said it! Now the theme music used in the movies is nice and all, but nowhere near as iconic as... In case you're not too familiar with the X-Men lore, in which a good majority of people watching this video might be, there are these beings called mutants, who are born with a gene that gives them superpowers at birth. So that makes Elsa from Frozen a mutant, technically. Same with every superhero featured in The Incredibles. However, characters like Superman, Wonder Woman, and Invincible are not classified as mutants. And then there's The Boys, where superheroes get their powers from a drug called Compound V. Mutants are looked down upon by the rest of the human race, and there is an ongoing conflict between two factions of mutants. For one, there's the Brotherhood of Mutants led by Magneto, and the X-Men, led by Charles Xavier at his school for gifted youngsters. Just think Sky High, but with actual comic book characters. Even though I feel that Sky High borrowed heavily from X-Men, seeing that both X-Men and Sky High revolve around superhero schools where young gifted students learn how to control their abilities. X-Men opens up with a young Eric Lenscher, a young boy who was separated from his parents at Auschwitz during the Holocaust. His mutant ability is to control metal and manipulate it, thus making him an Earthbender according to Avatar: The Last Airbender logic. This exact same scene is shown at the beginning of X-Men First Class, but it is not recycled. We then cut to the not too distant future where we meet Rogue, a young girl who accidentally puts her boyfriend into a coma by kissing him. Her abilities include absorbing anyone's memories, life force, and in the case of mutants, powers through physical touch. This is later seen when Wolverine accidentally impales her in his sleep with his adamantium claws. And yes, adamantium is the vibranium of the X-Men universe. Wolverine has an adamantium skeleton due to a procedure that he underwent as part of the Weapon X program. But what if Wolverine's skeleton was made of vibranium, while Captain America's shield is made from adamantium? Now that would be an interesting what-if scenario. Like I said, the human race does not trust mutants, and Senator Robert Kelly, played by Bruce Davison, tries to pass a Mutant Registration Act to Congress, which would force all mutants to reveal their identities and abilities, meaning that no mutant would be safe. Eric, all grown up and played by Ian McKellen, distrusts all humans and thinks that mutants are the superior race, while Charles Xavier, or Professor X, trusts humans and mutants equally and wants them to coexist. We then cut to Rogue on the run in Alberta, Canada, after her mutant abilities unfold, and she has a run-in with Wolverine, who doesn't trust her at first. Not only does Wolverine have metal claws, but he can also heal any kind of injury he sustains. But we see that it doesn't last very long by the time we got Logan in 2017. When it comes time for me to review Logan, I will go into this in more detail. Rogue and Logan are ambushed by Sabretooth, and they are saved by Storm and Donut Lord. Sorry, you're just gonna have to get used to me saying Donut Lord instead of Scott Summers, since 95% of the videos on this channel are all about Sonic the Hedgehog. It appears that Wolverine has no memories of where he came from and what his backstory is, but his memories slowly come back to him as time progresses on. He and Rogue are brought to Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, which is a school where young mutants learn how to control their abilities, and where the X-Men are trained under the watchful eye of Professor X to stop Magneto from starting a war with humanity. So, pretty much Hogwarts for mutants instead of wizards. There, Logan comes face to face with Jean Grey, a mutant with telepathy and telekinesis who serves as the doctor for the X-Men. She would later become the Phoenix in X-Men: The Last Stand and Dark Phoenix, in which both movies majorly fucked up the Phoenix saga. Senator Kelly is then abducted by shape-shifting mutant Mystique and Toad, and is brought to Magneto's lair where Magneto plots to use a device to turn humans into mutants. In this case, Kelly's skin turns into that of a jellyfish, but he later dies due to his body rejecting the mutation. And we also see Stan Lee's very first cameo appearance in a Marvel movie, be it X-Men, or Spider-Man, or Fantastic Four, or MCU. While enrolled at the school, Rogue develops a crush on Bobby Drake, or Iceman, played by Shawn Ashmore. Shawn Ashmore would later portray Lamplighter in Season 2 of The Boys as a big fuck you to Iceman. Iceman would later be a prominent member of the X-Men as seen in X2 X-Men United, X-Men: The Last Stand, and X-Men: Days of Future Past. Mystique disguises herself as Bobby, telling Rogue that she should leave the school. She runs away and gets on a train, where she would later be hunted by Magneto. And then comes Cerebro, a device used by Charles to locate mutants all throughout the world. This device is used in a good majority of X-Men movies. Since he is a telepath and can read minds, he could use Cerebro to locate any mutants in the world. He could even see a mutant throwing up in the parking lot after drinking 2 Scorpion Bowls in a row. And he could also see another mutant in the bathroom after eating Taco Bell, as well as a bunch of other embarrassing situations and places. So anyway, Cerebro is used to look for Rogue, and Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean, and Storm go find her. Also, there appears to be a love triangle between Wolverine, Cyclops, and Jean. Scott loves Jean, but Logan also has the hots for her, and it causes tension between Scott and Logan. And after they leave the Cerebro room, Mystique comes in and sabotages it, so that next time Charles uses it, he enters a coma. Also, don't come at Magneto with the gun, because his magnetic manipulation can snatch your gun from you and point it at your face. And don't come at him with adamantium claws, because he can control you like a puppet. Also, imagine if Tony Stark went up against Magneto as Iron Man. He'd lose the fight in an instant. Although there may have been a possibility where Iron Man went up against Magneto in the comics, but I don't know. Same with Captain America and even Thor. And even though Charles appears as a member of the Illuminati in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Beast made an appearance in the mid-credits sequence of the Marvels, I don't think the Avengers and the X-Men will ever come face-to-face anytime soon, but you never know. Magneto wants to use Rogue's absorption abilities to power his machine that he used on Senator Kelly, to turn all the humans on Ellis Island into mutants. When Charles attempts to stop him by controlling Sabretooth, he is forced to release his soul when Magneto threatens the police who have converged on the station, allowing the Brotherhood to escape with Rogue. So now, Rogue has been captured, and it's up to the X-Men to save her. Also, Magneto's helmet blocks away Charles' telepathic abilities, so he can't know what's going on in his mind. So every time he wears the helmet, good fucking luck trying to figure out what he had for breakfast in the morning. Senator Kelly arrives at the school, and Charles learns by reading his mind about Magneto's machine and his plans with it. He finds out that Magneto intends to transfer his powers to Rogue and use her to power it, which would end up killing her in the process. Kelly dies as a result of his rejected mutation, and Charles is incapacitated when he tries to use Cerebro to locate Rogue, all because Mystique fucked with it and added a bit of poison to it. And since Jean is a telepath just like him, she ends up using Cerebro to locate Rogue at the Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island, where Magneto intends to mutate the humans who are at the summit on Ellis Island to turn them into mutants. This is not the only Marvel movie in which the final battle takes place on the Statue of Liberty. Yes, I am talking about the battle with the 3 Spider-Men in Spider-Man No Way Home. So they use the Blackbird, or X-Wing, or X-Tornado, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, and they make their way to the Statue of Liberty where they fight against Mystique, Toad, and Sabretooth. But first, there is a bit of cheeky shenanigans involving Wolverine and a metal detector.
To arrive about an hour ago, greeted with a sort of garden party atmosphere, which was designed to entertain them as the others traversed the rigid security.
And then, a battle between the X-Men and Magneto's goons, including a fight between Wolverine and Mystique, who disguises herself as Wolverine. And as soon as Wolverine defeats her, we get some witty banter between Wolverine and Cyclops.
Hey, it's me. Prove it. You're a dick.
Hey, don't you dare talk to Donut Lord like that! Who the fuck do you think you are? That's not how Sonic talks in the Sonic movies. I just like to make Sonic swear in my videos. And as Storm overpowers Toad, we get one of the worst pieces of dialogue in the entire fucking movie.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
Oh, God. 24 years later, and that line is still stupid. And it was written by Joss Whedon, no less. The sumbitch who directed the first 2 Avengers movies and fucked up the Justice League before Zack Snyder recut it into a 4-hour movie. Seriously, ever since I heard about the drama behind the scenes of the theatrical cut of Justice League, I lost all respect for Joss Whedon, just like I did with Ezra Miller and Jonathan Majors. So they make it up to the top of the Statue of Liberty, where we get one final standoff between the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants. Magneto transfers his powers over to Rogue, who is forced to use them to start the machine. The X-Men are incapacitated, but Wolverine breaks free and gets into a fight with Sabretooth, but he gets thrown over the side of the statue. Eventually, he comes back and continues kicking ass. Cyclops blasts Sabretooth off the statue, and that's the last we see of Sabretooth until he's played by Liev Schreiber in X-Men Origins Wolverine. And like I said, when you have an adamantium skeleton and you go up against someone with the ability to manipulate magnetic fields, you're gonna fucking lose. Wolverine tries to save Rogue, but Magneto stops him with his powers. Wolverine destroys the machine after Cyclops fires a laser beam at Magneto. Wolverine transfers his regenerative abilities to Rogue after she appears to be dead, and she ends up with a white streak in her hair. Back at the mansion, the X-Men learn that Mystique is alive and is impersonating Senator Kelly. Charles sends Logan to Alkali Lake where he can get a glimpse of his past after suffering from amnesia as a result of him getting shot in the head with an adamantium bullet in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Meanwhile, Magneto is imprisoned in a plastic cell where there is absolutely zero metal. Something that Eric and Charles often do is play games of chess in almost every movie involving the two. Magneto warns his friend that he will continue his fight, to which Xavier promises that he and the X-Men will always be there to stop him. I'm giving X-Men an 8 out of 10. This film is very underrated, and it's a great way to kick off an iconic superhero team on screen, way before we got the Avengers or the Guardians of the Galaxy. Everyone was excellent, but the standout for these movies is definitely Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Around this time, Hugh Jackman was not that well known. Before he played Wolverine, he was known for acting on stage, And if you've seen the 2012 film adaptation of Les Miserables or The Greatest Showman, you would know that Hugh Jackman is an excellent singer. Wolverine was Hugh Jackman's breakthrough role, and it is one of the very definitions of perfect casting, next to Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. X-Men led to the re-emergence of the superhero film genre, and its success led to the Spider-Man movies and the MCU. So without X-Men, we wouldn't have Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or the MCU. Everyone did excellent in this movie, especially Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, James Marsden, Halle Berry, and of course Hugh Jackman. But later down the line, the X-Men films became mixed bags. Some were good, like X2, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, the Deadpool movies, the Wolverine, and Logan. And some were either mediocre or just straight up hot garbage, like X-Men The Last Stand, X-Men Origins Wolverine, X-Men Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, and the New Mutants. I am not looking forward to reviewing X-Men Origins Wolverine, Dark Phoenix, or the New Mutants, but I have no choice. Overall, the first X-Men movie was very good, but it is very underrated and underappreciated. I like the costumes, but they're not very comic accurate. We don't get a comic accurate Wolverine suit until Deadpool and Wolverine coming out this July, but that's alright. Hugh Jackman, with or without the iconic yellow suit, is still perfect casting as Wolverine. This movie was very faithful to the comics, and it's a step in a different direction than the iconic animated series, but still an enjoyable film, and a great way to kick off an iconic series of superhero films that span 20 years. Stay tuned for my review of X2 X-Men United coming soon, as well as Ghostbusters 2 and every other project and video coming soon. Till then, I'll see you all next time.